I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the dump, the only thing that's real. Red candle digs a hole, the old familiar sting. Try to cope it all the way, that I remember everything. What have I become? My sweetest friend. Every coin I own just gets bogged in the end. And you could hack it all. My portfolio of dust, it'll only let you down. It'll only make you just.
Welcome Bitcoin friends, it's Bitcoin Mamo. Today we'll be looking at the week ahead, doing some Bitcoin technical analysis, and just looking at possible price movements over this coming week and possibly the next coming month. So just looking at the first chart here, this is just on the daily chart. We are in this triangle pattern, and I have drawn it in this way because I am looking at the volume profile here also, connecting the tops here. And we can see the endpoint of this triangle lines up with the endpoint of also this volume triangle pattern drawn here. So normally we do see breakouts around 3/4 of the way into these patterns on these volume profiles and also in these triangle patterns. So if we do get a breakout around this area, the measured move, just taking it from here, from the top to the bottom of the triangle, could possibly take us down to this trend line here. This is actually around the US election time. So we do see price swings in the markets leading up to an election. So this is just a possibility, and this target down here would be around 8,500. I don't think we're going to go quite that low, but I'm just keeping it in mind as a possibility during this time leading up to the election. So this bottom trend line here, if we just go on the auto scale, we can see it's just connecting the tops all the way from the peak in 2017 and just running down. And I think it's possible that we could retest this line before we do start the bull market fully. So that's just one way of looking at it. We did have this fake out here on this triangle and also a small fake out here. It just seems like it corresponds with this volume profile, so that's the way that I've drawn it. So just moving on to the weekly time frame here, and I've drawn the same triangle here. I've got the weekly EMA ribbon here also, and we can see it's sort of following this white trend line here at the bottom at the moment. And we do have this CME Bitcoin futures gap here still at 96.70, and if we do the fib retracement here from this point here to the top, you can see that the 61.8 retracement, this is drawn upside down, but it corresponds to the same thing. We can see that if we do retrace to this golden pocket range here, we could possibly bounce off this line as well as getting support on the weekly EMA ribbon and filling that gap. So I do still think that's a possibility, and this would also be around the election time. Election time's around here, so as there is some confluence with this point. And just zooming out, we can see that this trend line's just drawn from the bottoms here, connecting the bottom there, and it also pretty much captures the top of this bounce here that we had after the big crash with the stock market, and also the bottom here before we started this massive run up, sideways action, and then a continued run up. So it's just another way of looking at it. As I said, I don't think we were going to come down all the way to this 8,500 mark here. I do think we're possibly going to fill this gap and then bounce and carry on. So just looking at the futures chart now, I've just got this triangle pattern drawn, again connecting the bottoms, connecting the tops. And if we just zoom in here, these orange lines are where the current gaps are on the market. So we can see there's one here. It didn't quite get filled, it got quite close here, but it isn't filled at the moment. And we have this other gap here. So again, I've got that fib retracement drawn from the same point here after this big drop, and the 61.8 or the golden pocket range pretty much lines up with this gap here. So just on the monthly chart now, I've just noticed on some YouTube channels some people talking about this divergence here. So this is the peak back in June of last year where we got up to 14,000, and it's just connecting the other peak here where we got up to around 12.5. And we can see we connect the bodies of the candles here because the RSI, which is this indicator down here, corresponds to the bodies. So just connecting the bodies here and connecting the tops here, we can see we have a bearish divergence. So we have lower highs in the RSI and higher highs in the spot price, which could lead to the price dropping down. And we can see here I've just got this arrow drawn here, again connecting the bottoms on the monthly. And we can see if we do drop during this month, just before November, the gap is right around here, around this 96.70 zone. So just looking at the futures chart, it tells a bit of a different story here. We can see that we have lower highs when connecting the bodies, and we have high highs looking on the RSI connecting the same points. So this is actually bullish divergence, which is the opposite to what the spot price is telling us. So I just think that's a little bit interesting there. There's no clear picture. A lot of times the futures chart can be more accurate than the spot price chart, but there's no 100% guarantee on this, and we'll just have to see which way this one goes. So just one more thing that I did find interesting, just looking on the weekly chart here, we can see we also have this descending trend line here on the volume profile, coming all the way back from the crash back in March all the way to where we are now, and we haven't broken this trend line as of yet. So it's possible we could have a big move over a week and break this volume profile and really determine the direction that Bitcoin's going in. Currently we can see that the stochastic RSI on the weekly is quite low and has plenty of room to go up, so that's quite a bullish sign if we do break this triangle. And the RSI is in a bit more of a, it is slightly bullish, sitting at around the 60 mark. And I am still watching this RSI, just going back in history here from 2015 in the previous bull market. This line here acted as support all the way through the bull market. And currently we can see we have been getting support of this line. So I do think we might get one more pullback here and then bounce off the line. I don't think we will break this line. I do think we will get a bounce, but as to what price level we will get to, well, I do think around this 96.70 mark again in this golden pocket zone, and that will help us retrace back to this blue line here without breaking it. So how am I playing this currently? I don't have a trade on at the moment. I'm just looking to get into a short. So I've just drawn the retracement here from the peak just recently, back on the 13th of October, where we got to 11.7, just to the bottom here, down at 11.1. And just looking at the 61.8 retracement on the fib, I'm trying to get into a short here around this golden pocket zone, which also would correspond with this downtrend connecting the tops. So I do think this will possibly happen maybe when the markets open starting this week. I do think we'll get a quick wick up here and then possibly start the downtrend back towards these lower levels down here. So the downward move from this triangle pattern, just connecting the tops from here, if we do break it around sometime tomorrow, then possibly we could come all the way down here to 10.6 before having a small bounce. And we can see this orange support line here just catches the bottoms here. So there is some confluence between breaking this triangle pattern, which is a bearish pattern, a descending triangle. And if we do break it with this measured move, it would correspond with this line here, which is acting as support currently. So I do expect a small bounce here initially. Perhaps this move could happen a bit later and we could break down further on around the 25th of October and get support on this blue line. And this blue line is just connecting the tops here, just from the run up that we've had, and since then we've been descending, having this bounce here. But until we break this high here, we're not really confirmed into a bull trend. We are sort of getting lower highs still. And I do have these trades waiting here if we do come down to fill that gap around 9,700. So we just have to see what happens. It's going to be some interesting moves, I think, leading up to the election. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens. So I hope you enjoyed that analysis. Happy trading, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. So just a quick update. The price did end up going up and getting into this golden pocket zone, and it did trigger my sell short orders. So currently $1,000 trade, and I'm up $62 at the moment. So we'll see if the price keeps on carrying down here, at least to this line, and if we do break this line.